We're live.
Woo! Hello,
Yay!
everybody.
Hi,
Welcome,
guys.
welcome back to Black Prose Podcast, where Black lives, Black voices, and Black stories have always mattered. Tonight, I am your host. My name is Ochuole of Ohshereads on YouTube and Ohshereads_ on Instagram. And I will let my other two hosts introduce themselves briefly before we introduce our special guest.
I'm Britney, aka Melanin Eclectic on all platforms, the creator of the first Black reading planner that is still up for pre-order on the site. And that is my little spiel today.
Yes.
Hi guys, I'm Troy-Nicole from Inkfleur Studio on YouTube, as well as TheBookishWallfleur on YouTube and on Instagram.
And tonight we have an extra special guest with us for our NaNoWriMo Live. Welcome, everyone. Liselle Sambury. Woo! To the podcast. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Liselle Sambury. I'm a young adult author living in Canada, Ontario specifically, and my debut novel, Blood Like Magic, comes out next year, so June 15th, 2021. It's about a family of Black witches living in a near future Toronto, and the young Black witch who is forced to make the impossible decision of choosing between losing her family's magic forever or killing her first love.
Oh my God. Every time you say the description, I'm just like, I need this book now.
I can't wait for this. Just for that last sentence, if anything.
That last sentence, go ahead. I need it now. Thanks.
And also, y'all, if you stay tuned to the end, we may or may not be doing, we are. I'm not even going to tease y'all. We are doing a very special giveaway at the very end of Blood Like Magic. So just stay tuned to hear how to enter, because we're telling you at the end, because yes, you have to stay through this entire podcast. Thank you. So I wanted to start off by just talking a little bit more about you, Liselle, and your writing journey and how you've gotten to where you are now, what you're up to, if you're working on any new projects. We just want to know everything.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been writing pretty much since I was 13, and only really started more seriously writing in high school. There was a writing club that I joined. And so that was really good for my teachers kind of encouraging me to get more into writing and that sort of thing. But I was convinced that if you became a writer, you would starve out, and I wasn't into that. So I went to school for linguistics instead. And I didn't write while I was in school. It was just it was too busy, and I in high school, I hadn't had much of a social life. I was a very big nerd. And in university, we were on dorms and stuff. And so I had a bunch of friends, and I had parties to go to and stuff. And so I wasn't about writing during that time. So I didn't write until I was 22. And that's when I got into the writing community and started getting serious with it. I ended up starting a book blog that is now gone because I dropped right off of it, but I started one, and that's how I kind of got on Twitter and got to interact with more writers and really kind of understand how traditional publishing worked and how to find an agent and that sort of thing. And so my second book that I queried, because I did query my first book, but I did a very bad job because I didn't know anything. But my second book I wrote, I queried that. It didn't end up getting any bites, which to me was good in the end because it was actually really problematic. And so I got to skip all that. And then I went on to my third book, which was Blood Like Magic. And I told myself I'm going to take a full year to edit it to make sure I would actually spend the time to edit before I started querying and sending it to agents. And I ended up taking almost the full time. I got into a contest called RevPit, which is freelance editors to help you polish your manuscript. So I ended up getting into that. Yeah, it was good. It was really, I totally like wasn't going to enter too because I was trying to like hold out for Pitch Wars, and then I was like, why would I hold out for that? Why wouldn't I just apply and see what happened? And that ended up being really, really helpful. And so I just started querying right after that. And I queried for about a month and a half, which is very short for me because my second book I queried on and off for like 2 years. So
wow.
this was very, very fast for me. And I signed with Christy Hunter at the Night Agency. Christy is amazing. She's fantastic. I'm super, super happy to be her client and be on her list. And we spent like 6 months whipping Blood Like Magic into shape.
Okay.
And then we went on submission with it. So we sent it to editors. And that was like a painful 4-month process, which is like in hindsight, 4 months is actually not bad for submission. But when you're waiting, it's a little bit more upsetting and very, very painful. Yeah, absolutely. And it ended up being bought by Sarah McCabe at what was then Simon Pulse. And Simon Pulse is now gone. And I'm with Margaret K. McElderry with Simon & Schuster.
Simon & Schuster. Okay, nice. So I was just kind of listening to your schooling experience and stuff. And so I know we have a lot of writers watching, whether they be aspiring or wanting to be traditionally published. And if I'm not mistaken, so you did not go to school for writing, you went for linguistics.
Yeah, absolutely not. I was in fact purposely avoiding going to school for writing because I was like, I need a reasonable degree. And so I got a liberal arts degree because that's what happens when you're in high school and you don't truly know that much. But I had thought that I would become a speech language pathologist, and it turns out you actually need like quite high grades to get into a master's for that. So that did not work out for me at all. And I ended up bouncing around. Like ultimately, I was working in social media up until this point. So like when people say you'll switch careers a bunch in your life, they are being very honest with you.
Right. I mean,
facts.
It's so interesting to me because I remember when I started writing again after a long period of time of not writing, I remember feeling so much fear about not having gone to school for writing, right? Because you hear all the time about, the successful authors always going into these MA programs and, having degrees from these like prestigious writing universities or universities that specialize in their writing programs, and it can be very daunting. So I find it really amazing that you didn't let that stop you. You were just like, didn't go to school for writing. It's fine. I'm just going to start this book blog and now I'm going to write my own novel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember like in my university, because in my 3rd and 4th year, I like took creative writing classes because that was kind of like the closest I could get. And one of the girls there was like going to do an MA in creative writing, and I was so jealous of her. I was like, wow, I wish I like had cash to spend on like, because I already was negative cash from university, and I was just like, yeah, I can't afford to do an MFA program. But then when I was learning about, getting an agent and publishing, especially with like genre fiction, especially with YA, people were just like, you just have to get an agent. I thought you had to like write a bunch of literary short stories and get them published in a bunch of magazines. Exactly. And only after you had been published in like 10 magazines and were considered prolific could an agent deign to pay attention to you. And that's not it at all. Not for genre fiction, not for YA. That's it for like, I don't even know if that's it for literary fiction, to be honest, because you just kind of have to have a good book and be able to get an agent on your good book, and then you can go forward from there, right?
Right, absolutely. So where did you get the idea for Blood Like Magic? When did you first start writing it, and what was that process like?
So I did it for 20 what this year's 2020, last year 2018 or maybe 2017 NaNoWriMo. I had done it. So I did actually write the first draft during NaNoWriMo. And I was working on another story actually. I was supposed to write a book about like Death Reapers, and then I just like lost kind of passion for it. And I was like, it must have been like November 10th. And I was like, I want to switch projects. I want to do something that like feels more fun to me. And I was like, I want to write about like Black witches. And I want to put them in Toronto because like I was living up north where I am right now. But I was really missing being in Toronto. You know, that's where I grew up. And I wanted to write a story set there for the nostalgia. And then I just thought it'd be fun if it was in the future. And then it was in the future. I can't really point to like a specific sort of inspiration, but I just like had this feeling of wanting to write about a family of Black witches. And in my family, I grew up, there were 10 of us living in one house together. And I just wanted to recreate that. And I thought it would be fun if like they had magic and they were witches.
That sounds amazing. And honestly, I just want to say, if you're listening right now, if this is not the biggest sign in the world that you need to either A, start your novel now, B, your NaNoWriMo draft can become something that is definitely worthy of publication, or C, the idea you have is not stupid, then I don't know what it is. But I also feel like you were writing what you knew. And I feel like that is so important for those just starting out in writing or who may be struggling with their writing. Like, writing what you know is so important and can be a good foundation for even something like a fantasy, which is going to include elements that are unrealistic and not of, you know, the natural world. But I wanted to also delve a little bit deeper into your actual process and how it was writing that first draft. Did it take a long time? Did you outline a lot of it? Did you pants a lot of it? Like, just a little bit more into that process.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do make an effort to plot things. But I definitely, when I wrote Blood Like Magic, I was like a full-on plantser. Like I was doing a mix of both. So I plotted out my main story points. I honestly can't remember if I was using Save the Cat beats then. I think I might have, but I cannot remember 100%. But that's what I use now to write. I use Save the Cat Writes a Novel beats. Nice. But I plotted out all of my main points, and then I just kind of hopped in. So I'll plot out like the actual plot points, and then a lot of stuff, things like voice, I just kind of let come to me on the fly. I pantsed my world building, which I've done for a long time, and I'm starting to try not to do now because it bites me in the butt a lot. But I would just like world build on the spot. Like they do magic, and I would decide on the spot how the magic worked, and then that's what I put down on the page, which creates issues for, you know, continuity later on. And I learned my lesson with that because I ended up having to rewrite half the book twice.
Oh, so, wow.
Yeah, I learned my lesson, but that's kind of how my process was. And then I do a daily word count goal, whether or not I'm doing Nano, just so I kind of have a deadline for myself. So at that point in Nano, I was already 10 days out. So I was trying to finish in the next 20 days. And it actually worked out fine for me. Shockingly, I still am not quite sure how I accomplished that. But I finished at about 60,000 words that first draft.
Wow. That is amazing. 10 days in and you still finished at 60,000 words.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. But now that you bring up NaNoWriMo, I do want to talk about how your NaNoWriMo is going. What are you working on?
Oh, yes. Do tell.
Yes. So my this is my preamble. I have a pattern with NaNoWriMo. So 1 year I win, and the next year things fall apart, and the next year I win, and the next one. And so last year I won, and so this year things have fallen apart. I was supposed to be working on a sci-fi thriller. I've now abandoned it to work on a shiny new idea. So right now I'm working on plotting a dark academia novel. It's set at my alma mater, Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario. So it's kind of going to be about a girl whose brother goes missing, and she kind of gets wrapped up in a sort of secret society, and lots of gore and monsters and a potential love triangle. So that's kind of what I'm working on. I think I was like very inspired by Legend Born by Tracy Deonn.
Yes.
I think
my gosh.
Amazing.
Oh my God. Finally somebody said it. Like,
Yeah.
I love Legend Born.
It's so good. I've been like recommending to everyone. I got to read
Me
a copy, and I was just like hooked. I was sending the author Tracy, I was sending her texts being like, oh my God. And like, I'm Team Cell, and like, I want to see what's happening.
Oh my gosh, this is me. I've been trying to tell them that they need to hurry up and read it so that I can say things and they just understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, you have to read it.
I can't read during NaNoWriMo. I have this thing where I literally can only read something that is so far from my writing style and what I'm writing. So the only thing I've been able to read this entire month is rereading Pride and Prejudice via audiobook.
Yeah.
And I only do that on my morning like commute to work because it's just like a perfect way to start the day. And that's literally the only thing I've been reading, because if I start reading anything else, it'll start to influence and like slowly creep into what I'm doing. And I'm just like, I can't do it.
Yeah. In December, read it in December. It's
I know. I feel like this so long away.
It is, but at least it's happening.
I know. It's like I want to talk about it on the podcast, but I can't because I got to wait for them to read it, because it's just like, you don't understand. I was looking for all of 2020.
Oh my gosh.
So good. I've like
the agony waiting for the second book is always the worst.
Listen, I need to go ahead and let Tracy know, like, do you need more people on your PR team for the next book? Like, what do you need me to do? I can make stickers, like I can do makeup. What do you need? Whatever. I just want the book.
Yeah, no, that 100%. I will be like, these DMs. I'll be like, are you done?
Right.
Because we have the same editor. So somebody's gonna get it to me.
Look at God.
Liselle's like, I have got an inside hookup to book number 2.
Yeah. So
had I known I was
very
love it this much, I would have waited. Just that's such a long wait.
Yeah, that's the thing about books.
That's the way it works. That's why
I mean, we have to wait half a year to get your book, and I think I've been saying I can't wait for your book for like a year now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I feel bad for everybody I tell like like right away when I get the deal, because then they're like, when does it come out? And I'm like, in like 2 years.
Yeah, because when we met and you told us, I was like, all of this sounds amazing. When can I get it? And I was like, okay, I'll wait. And then I saw the cover and I was like, it's happening. It's happening.
I know, it's coming up soon-ish now.
Look, the time is going to fly by. Look how fast this year went by.
Yeah.
It's gonna be here before we know it.
But speaking of the cover though, can I just say, you have my entire aesthetic on this cover. Everything about her, just, you gave me the description of the book and then you gave me the cover, and I'm like, I can visualize it now. Like, I'm very happy. You know me, I love when things just do not work out for people. I like when they have to choose between really important things. I like when it sounds like it's going to be a miserable time. I really enjoy stories like this.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited.
She's miserable for a lot of it.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Y'all are I'm just excited about the whole Black family of witches thing. You know, it's giving me everything that I needed from the CW as a child, but they refused to give me. Yeah. So I am here. Okay, I've already pre-ordered my copy. I'm excited to see how the magic works in this world. Like, I'm excited for the romance potentially, but I'm more excited for the world building, the family dynamics, and like her development as a character.
Yeah. And I think that's really like the big parts of the book. Like, and my editor said that too. She's like, you know, I'm like down for the romance, but she's like, the big thing for me was the magic and the family. And that's such a huge part of the book. And so like, yeah, I love complicated family dynamics.
Exactly. That is what I'm hyped for. And just like seeing how everything unfolds. And can you tell us how many books they're going to be? Like, can you tell us that? Or
I can. There are going to be 2 books. So it's
a duology.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I love duologies. I don't know. I've been getting really tired of these trilogies because, you know, the second book is always
the flop.
We're like, do
trying to like
really know how to bring it together and like get us to a point and then drop us off nicely back at home? Like, duologies do that.
Yeah.
And I just like when an author is like, you know what, this story can be told in 2 books. I don't need to draw things out. I don't need to add things that are not necessary. I don't need to throw in like plot lines that ultimately don't matter. Like, it just warms my heart. Like, if a book is truly supposed to be a trilogy and it's truly supposed to take this long to complete the story, then I have no problems with it. But I find a lot of times, especially in YA and a lot of YA fantasy, that these trilogies could have been done in a more succinct manner, like in 1 to 2 books. And whenever a new YA trilogy comes, you're just like, here we go. It's like a gamble. It's like a toss-up. It's like, am I gonna be okay by the 3rd book? Am I gonna be livid?
And then a lot of YA trilogies though will have like the 2nd book be absolutely nothing. And I'm just like, this could have been like literally 2 chapters of this nonsense instead of being
maybe that's a prologue for the final book. Thanks.
I think the only author that has successfully carried on a series, a YA fantasy series, that I have not been angry with in every book is probably Sabaa Tahir. Maybe there's like one other person that I'm not remembering right now, but she is like the first person I think about.
Oh, I only read the first book of it. I've only read Ember in the Ashes.
I haven't even read any of them yet.
You know what the irony is that it's like y'all would like be obsessed with these books if you
I heard that, and I feel like that's why I haven't read it yet, because I feel like there's so much pressure on this poor book series that, you know, what if I read it and it's not great? Then what?
Oh,
that's true. I've really enjoyed the books, though. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed them.
Yeah.
But so now I want to talk about. So you said you're working on a dark academia at the moment, like horror type vibes. I see a lot from, by the way, for those of y'all that don't know, Liselle has an amazing YouTube channel. Please go follow her. She talks about her writing and gives advice and talks about her entire like process and journey to
link is in the description box.
Definitely go check out her channel. She gives great advice and is very entertaining, and I love seeing her pets. But anyway, and her plants. But so I wanted to ask, I noticed a lot just from like your social media and the things that I see you doing, that you are very interested in writing like horror and like suspense and stuff like that. Do you think that that's where your niche is, or like where you're kind of headed towards in terms of your writing style and journey? And
yeah, I really think that's kind of the way it's gonna go. Like my what I did for Nano last year, the book that's on submission now is like a haunted house book. So also set in Canada, because I just set everything in Canada. You know, about a mother and a daughter that inherit a mansion that they turn into an Airbnb, that the daughter finds out the mom has spent several summers living here and have literally never talked about it. And I really loved doing that and like jumping into horror, and even like this dark academia, I think will have elements of like fantasy. It'll be more of a dark fantasy, but like have the fantasy, but also have a lot of the horror. And I think that's kind of where I'm into. I remember in my earlier draft of Blood Like Magic, people would be like, oh, this kind of dark. And I was like, is it? I think it's like a light, happy romp. And then I would remember that, like, you know, there's like a beheading and like a ritual sacrifice and like and like a stabbing, several stabbings actually. And like, and that's when I was like, oh, maybe.
It sounds amazing.
So I think that's definitely where my like interests lie. Definitely like a sort of darker tone. I always insert like moments of humor because that's just like my style, but I definitely like a sort of darker tone for sure. I think because I'm such a horror movie buff, like I love horror movies. Me and my mom have watched them like since the beginning. She used to like take me as a little baby to the movie theater, like watch slasher movies, and I would just sleep. So I just like, that's definitely my vibe.
That is hilarious. I just picture your mom with this like small infant like in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Watching a scary film. That's hilarious.
It's so funny.
Like, this is the only way I can get her to sleep with the screaming.
Like, yeah.
I will dip into that book as well. Thanks so much.
I know. I'm intrigued. I normally don't go for horror, but it sounds intriguing just because I'm a sucker for like family stories and just deeper things. I feel like it's a trope that's just underused in YA. Like, we don't get a lot of family dynamics in our YA fiction, and I crave that. So whenever I see that, like, family dynamics and like friendship stories are like my kryptonite. So whenever I see those tropes or see those storylines in any YA fantasy or YA book, I'm like, I need it now.
Yeah,
so I'm really excited.
I love complicated. I struggle to think of a book I would write that I couldn't do a complicated family dynamic. And low key, I think that's why I dipped out of my sci-fi thriller, because there wasn't any of that in it.
I see. You got to add some in there.
Yeah.
We need that one too. I'm all about the thrillers.
A question.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Don't worry. My question's not bad. I always find it intriguing when I'm reading books, and they're specifically about Black girls and magical Black girls. Legendborn has had me shook because now I'm so interested in how, like, what was the process like creating the like, did you create your own magic system? Were you inspired by another magic system?
So I created my own magic system from scratch for like reasons, because like it's some of my main characters' ancestors are from New Orleans, and someone had messaged me early on. They were like, oh, are you like doing voodoo stuff? And I was like, no, because I have zero connection to that culture. And I don't want to like pull stuff from it when I have like no place there. So I did mine entirely from scratch. And then just kind of went from there.
Thank you so much for not appropriating. We appreciate you. That is so responsible.
Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear what she said? She said that that's not her thing, so she stayed away from it. Life lessons, people. Life lessons.
I'm like, I'm Black, but I'm not New Orleans Black. I was like, that's not my thing. I was like, there's like real people, like real history behind that. Like, and I have nothing to do with that.
Right. Oh my god.
This is something that we preach on this podcast a lot, where it's like, stay in your lane. We preach that a lot here. And so you fit right in. Just
Thank you so much. But yes. So a little bit more about, so your NaNoWriMo has gone completely belly up, I take it. You started a new project, and this is how I feel about NaNoWriMo. I feel like people get so caught up on winning NaNoWriMo and like getting to that 50,000 words that it literally psychologically stops people. Like it psychs them out from even either starting or, like you did, like switching to something else. Because it's very easy to lose interest. Like, it's very easy to give up if you just naturally lose interest in what you're writing, and you're just like, I don't feel like doing this anymore, and so you just stop writing, and then you just don't continue on with NaNoWriMo for the month. And I have started now to stop focusing so much on the word count, or even necessarily like trying to write all within one story. Like if I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like writing this anymore, I'm going to start something else, or I want to write a play, or I want to revamp another project. I treat it more like the summer sessions where you can make your own word count and just kind of do your own thing. But I feel like that's a lot of what I hear from people who are apprehensive about NaNoWriMo is they get really psyched out about winning it. And like that fear of like not winning is really big.
Yeah. And I wish that it was like, I feel like more people should definitely rebel. I made a video and I talked about like switch your project if you want to switch your project, because why are you suffering through like forcing yourself to write it to like quote unquote win? And it's true. I feel like Nano is just like a time to focus. And like, even if you only like go hardcore on Nano for like 10 days, like that's probably a lot more than you would have written otherwise. And so it's just like joining it briefly or doing whatever you want. It's just like a month to focus on your writing goals is kind of how I see it. And I think it's kind of like a healthier way to see it. Like I almost forced myself to just finish the sci-fi book. And I was like, why? You don't care anymore. Why don't you just do the thing you want to do? And you're still doing NaNoWriMo, you're still focusing on a project for the month without getting bogged down about like, I have to hit this arbitrary goal, you know?
Absolutely. And I've started this thing now where I kind of started it like last year where I try to, it sounds weird, but I try to like finish NaNoWriMo early. So then I don't have to worry about the word count. It's really weird, but essentially I just write more and more and more. Like I'll start off like writing the word count that they say that you're supposed to write every day, but then like I'll take advantage of like the weekends and write like 5,000 words in one day, or like one night if I really feel inspired, like instead of stopping like I normally would, I'll just keep going until I can't keep my eyes open. Like I'll start off slow, and then as the days go on, I'll write like more and more and more and more to try to not, in a weird way, being ahead makes me stop worrying about winning. I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, because then you're like, oh, I've got it. Like, I've definitely got this. I don't have to worry about, like, if I miss a day, then now, like, everything is ruined.
Everything is ruined. And then you can just focus on the story. Like, for me, it's kind of like, oh, this pesky word count thing. Like, I'm just going to write a whole lot. And then I can just focus on the story and just really writing the story and enjoying it, as opposed to being stressed out every time I sit down to write.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the thing is it's like NaNoWriMo is a challenge, but it's not like a challenge to like, you know, write yourself to death. Like,
Right.
It doesn't need to be that serious. Because yeah, you just like you ruin yourself. You ruin yourself for December because then it's like, well, now I can't write anything.
You're like burnt out. And like for me, I don't know how anyone else feels who does NaNoWriMo regularly, but for me, honestly, by the time like we get to the middle of the month, like around this time, like the 15th, 16th, I literally, all I want to do is like decorate for Christmas, eat cookies, and watch Christmas movies. So I don't want to feel guilty.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I should be working on my NaNoWriMo. I'm like, whatever. I'm like 10,000 words ahead. I'm going to watch these 2 movies and eat these cookies.
Yeah.
Priorities,
right?
I give anyone who does NaNoWriMo, I don't care if you do a day or 2 days, their dues, because I don't even open it. Like, I don't, like, I used to do it. I'm not joking. I used to do it all the time, every year. And each year I would just be like, this is very stressful for me. And it's like, I don't like feeling like rushed. I feel like when I do NaNoWriMo, I have this in my head, like, okay, I didn't write today. That's a problem. I didn't write this day. That's a problem. And so I just like cut it out completely. I kept on getting emails from them, and I was just like, nope, not opening it, not doing it. I am going to literally be on edge, and I'm already on edge for school, so we're not doing NaNoWriMo. That's just it.
You know what? I feel like the NaNoWriMo April and July sessions are actually better in terms of mental health wise for people who don't like to be put in a pressure cooker when it comes to writing, because essentially the summer sessions, you set your own goals. And so you can pretty much just use that time for whatever you want. Like when I participate in them, if I'm not writing a full draft or something, I will sometimes just use it as like an outline, like, oh, I need to outline this project. So that's what I'm going to do. And I set my outline goal at like 10,000 words or something like that. And I'll just go outline something, or I'll use it as a time to like write a short story for fun, or just something that gets me back into writing, because usually by the time either April or July comes, I usually have like not written for a while at that point or something like that. So I think maybe that might be a better option for people who don't want to feel the pressure of the November NaNoWriMo, where it's like, let's go.
Yeah. And I hear a lot of writers say they prefer the June, July, the camp because of that reason, because they can like not feel like it's so hardcore.
Yes, because it's very intense. I'm just like, oh my gosh. And I will admit, like when I first started doing NaNoWriMo, I don't know how I did it, because I literally vlogged every single day. This was when I first started my YouTube channel. I vlogged every single day and still managed to write 50,000. I don't know. I didn't have a job. That's how
wild. I did it. People that vlog every day, I'm like, are you superhuman? What?
I have so many questions to those people, because I'm like, you have enough content for every day?
Every single day. And to this day, those are still some of my like most watched videos. Like people still go back and watch those, which is crazy because those are from like 2014. But I think I did it. I went so full in on it because that NaNoWriMo was like me writing after so many years of like not writing, or like being rejected by professional writers, or having like people critique my work in ways that were very traumatizing. So for me, that was like such a healing experience. And I think that's why I go so hard for NaNoWriMo every year, because I like owe NaNoWriMo to like getting me back into writing and getting me to actually like love it again and enjoy it again. Yeah. So that's why I love it.
So but I have a question.
Oh, here with the question.
As I'm not a writer, and I've just been waiting for Troy and Ochuole to go ahead and join this author world so that I can have their books as well. Shade intended. Do you guys feel like the social media element of NaNoWriMo has made it difficult to actually complete finished works? Because I hear a lot of people say, I've heard you guys say, you know, you've won NaNoWriMo, but like how many people are taking what they've quote unquote won from NaNoWriMo and actually turning it into a book?
You know, I have like mixed feelings about that, because I think that people write for different reasons. And I think that we live in a culture that is so product based that we forget that some people write only as a hobby. We forget that some people experience a lot of writers that I know anyway are living with some sort of like mental illness or some sort of disability or something like that. And so their process looks so much different than someone who is you know, not dealing with those sort of things. Like I've heard so many stories, just because people do like to send me like messages and things like that, just because of the videos I've made about writing over the years. And a lot of people are either scared to move forward with what they've written, or they have queried before and they've always faced rejection, or they've had bad luck with, there's so many stories out there. Like for me, like I remember like the first novel I seriously queried was back in college, and I queried it for like a few years and with no success. And so that was like very demoralizing. And the publishing world was so different back then, because I was writing stories that honestly, this sounds terrible, but I was writing stories that I was literally, because I interned at HarperCollins for a while, I was literally writing stories and they were telling me that my stories were too Black.
Yeah.
And they needed to be less Black.
Were you writing street lit with HarperCollins?
What now?
Were you writing street lit with HarperCollins?
So I think that there's just so much that goes into it. It's not, I think social media definitely plays a part. It can be distracting. I think a lot of people do things for show and et cetera, the usual failings that come with social media. But I think that there are also a lot of other factors involved. I know a lot of people that write just for fun. Like I remember I went to like a writers group thing. This was before the pandemic, obviously, but every NaNoWriMo, you have like a writers group in whatever city you're in. And they usually take place in like the public library or something like that. And I remember a couple years ago, I went to one, and my writers group was literally filled with like people of all ages. And some of the people I met literally just wrote like for fun. They had no plans on publishing, no plans on the writing ever seeing the light of day. It was just something they did literally for themselves.
Yeah.
So
yeah, for sure. I think that's a lot of people. It's like so dependent on what everyone's goals are for their books and like what they write, because it's true, some people just write for fun, or they write and they, you know, maybe that particular project they don't have any designs on getting it published or self-publishing or doing traditional publishing, or like Ochuole said, they're kind of like, it can be traumatizing to like do querying, honestly, especially when you have bad experiences. You can kind of be a little bit gun shy, or sometimes you write a full book and, you know, in traditional publishing, you kind of hear, oh, that genre, that thing is like dead and nobody wants to take that. And so then it can kind of be hard to be like, do I want to spend all my time on that and then be told by an agent? I think that's really cool, but nobody's buying that right now. So I feel like it's all over the place dependent. I'm excessive. So like when I write stuff, like everything I write is to sell in the future. So whatever I write, I like
Liselle's
plan
like, look,
it.
honey, I'm gonna get my coins. I don't write for $0, okay? I love it so much because this is what I'll say, Brittany, about your social media question. I will actually say that I am actually so grateful for social media, because now we get access to writers like Liselle, and even I was watching an Instagram live that Nick Stone did with another author who has a book coming out, and I can't remember her name, and I feel terrible.
Oh, with Jess? JL?
Yes, thank you.
That was so good.
It was so good. She dropped so many gems. But I'm so grateful for social media, because if you are someone who's aspiring and you do want a career as a published author, in the sense that you'll be able to sell what you're writing, and that is your goal, is to be traditionally published, we have so many resources now because of social media, and authors are being more transparent than they've ever been, from everything about their advances to their querying process to how they got their agents to, you know, how much they're actually making, how their writing process, you know, their scheduling for, you know, when they write. Like, the transparency is at an all-time high. So the access to information and the access, like if I had this type of access when I was 22, 21 years old, like crying my eyes out because I was being like, doors were being slammed left and right, and I was just like, you know, given up basically. If I had the level of information where authors are literally telling you like, oh yeah, I didn't get published till like my 13th book, like whatever, like that would have helped me so much as a young woman to understand that, you know, or even like the self-publishing world and how it's exploded, and how all these self-published authors are doing like seminars and like literally showing you step by step how they self-published. We have, because of social media, so much information now.
Yeah, the information is super powerful. I think that's quite honestly why I could get into publishing, because when I had written my first book, I like had nothing. I had no information to go on. I queried in the day when like only a small handful of people were taking email queries, and otherwise you had to print the whole thing out and mail it to them. I couldn't do that because it was too expensive. So it's just like, and I didn't know what I was doing. And then by the time I was like 22 and getting back into it, there was so much more information out there. Like I was able to like and connect with so many people on Twitter that were doing it, that were querying, or that have gotten agents, and I could learn so much more than I ever could have back when I was 18 and trying to send out my baby book to people.
Yes, the information, like I've learned so much from even just YouTube and the writers on YouTube, like from Alexa Dunn's channel to your channel to the iWriterly team. And there's another author I watch a lot. I want to say her name is like Jenna, or I can't remember her name, and it's gonna bug me.
Morrissey?
Yes. But you know, just the whole author tube section on YouTube is incredibly informative, and learning other people's experiences and how they've basically gotten to where they are and how willing they are to give that information, how transparent they are, has helped me like think about a plan for my future and what I want to do with the books that I've written, and like what path I want to go down and things of that nature. So if anyone is listening, I highly recommend doing your research if that's what you want to do, is be published, especially if you want to be traditionally published. The information is out there and authors are willing to share. So
yeah.
We have an audience question.
Ooh.
Miss WOT Reader asks, do you do nano while working a full-time job?
Every other time I've done nano, except for this year, yes. Not this year, which is funny because this year it's like imploded. But this year, I worked at a travel company, so I got laid off early in the year, and now I'm just writing full time. So, but yeah, previously I've done it while I've been working, and my kind of way that I've managed that has been like I wake up real early and I do my writing in the morning, and then I would just go to work after, and then that way it was like done from the beginning of the day every day. And like if I had time to write in the evening, cool, but if I like wanted to go hang out with friends or like if I had errands and stuff, then I could do that too, and at least know that like it was done from like the beginning of the day.
Yes, I 100% second that. I'm working a full-time job now, and with the exception of the first NaNoWriMo I ever did back in 2014, I have had a full-time job and at times 2 jobs while doing NaNoWriMo. And before, I remember I used to really struggle to find time to write, and it hasn't been until the past 2 years when I started taking like my writing time more seriously that I do exactly what Liselle does, and I literally wake up at 5 a.m. every day, sometimes 4:45, and I write for a solid hour, interrupted hour in the morning, because if I don't, it's just so much harder to get it done, because by the time I get home from work, I have a very demanding job in the sense that I'm constantly interacting with people all day. So by the time I get home, I'm completely drained and I don't want to see a human being or talk to anyone. And I'm just like mentally drained. And so then trying to find this like energy to go into my imagination is just can be a lot to ask. So I'm like 100% about morning writing. I don't think I'll ever go back. As long as I work a full-time job, I will never go back to not writing first thing in the day.
Yeah. And then you don't have to dread it. I used to dread it the whole day.
The whole day? You're like, oh my God, no, one more episode of Buffy. Like, please.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, I got to go do this.
Wow. I mean, this brings up my next question. You have transitioned into full-time author world.
Mm-hmm.
What are some new hobbies you have picked up now that you have a little bit more free time in your life?
Oh man, I did so much stuff. Watercolor painting, I was doing a lot of. I've kind of dropped off now. I don't know why. I've just gotten lazy. But watercolor painting, I was doing some digital art stuff. What else have I been doing? Oh, I've been doing some journaling. I do occasional journaling. I don't like the pressure of having to like make a nice spread, so I just like do it whenever I feel like it, and I just scribble down my thoughts. I like made over my whole little office space and like got all my IKEA stuff and put up all my prints. I'm very obsessed with stickers. I buy too many stickers now, so collecting stickers is a hobby now.
I support this.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and like kind of I sew occasionally. It's all hobbies that I used to do, and then I kind of dropped off because I would do them if I was just working, but I didn't do them if I was like working and then also writing, because then it was like doing two things, and then I could only really do that stuff very, very occasionally. So yeah, now I do so much more reading now, which is really nice.
Does the idea of being full-time, like, do you ever have moments where you kind of freak out, where you're like, oh my God, should I go get a job? Should I stay here? I'm an author now. Like, do you have those moments, or do you feel very confident now that you have a book that's actually coming out with the date drop and everything?
Sorry, I think I missed whatever you said in the beginning. Do I have that moment?
I was saying, do you ever have freak out moments? Because, you went from working a full-time job to writing a book, and now you're a full-time author with a book that's actually dropping next year.
Oh yeah, I had but most of my freak out moments this year were like going back and forth between, no, you have to take a job, you just have to take anything. You can't like say to people, I'm not going to work for less than this amount, and then just like not take jobs. You got to like take something, because what if this happens or that happens? And I ended up calming down from that eventually, partially because the job market is not great, partially because also I'm up north now, and I have like a lot of support from my partner and my family, and I don't necessarily need to be hardcore, at least for like a year. So I was like, you know what, it's COVID year, it's like I'm good for the rest of the year, and then I can like reevaluate as time goes on. And also I think it's just helped that I enjoy writing full-time so much, so then I can like calm down because I'm just enjoying being like a creative. But I have a lot of freak out moments. Like I had a freak out moment where I was like, oh my gosh, what should I be doing for my book? And I've got to like do this thing and that thing and this thing, and like do all the promotional things ever. And it's like pretty interesting, Ochuole, that you brought up that Nick Stone and the JL live, because watching that Instagram live like calmed me right down, because Nick Stone was like, just do whatever you can do. Like writing the book is the biggest way that you can influence things, and you've done that. So like just do whatever you want or you can, because after that point, like it's kind of mostly your publisher is going to kind of determine the scope, and like whatever you're doing promotional for yourself is kind of extra on top of that. Like I think there's a baseline of promotion, but like don't kill yourself trying to do everything and trying to make things happen, because a lot of that stuff is out of your control. So like focus on what you can control, which is the book and writing more books. And I've always been very good about like moving on and writing the next book. And I was like, okay, well, I'm already doing that, so I don't need to freak out. I can be a calm, normal person and just focus on continuing to write books and like making those as good as possible. But yeah, I think authors will always kind of have freak out moments. I'm sure I'll have a re-emerging freak out moment once my arcs are printed, and I know there's advanced copies floating around and that people are reading it, and now people can share their opinion.
Look, your Goodreads reviews are good, honey.
Yeah, I checked them out before this. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh my God,
I don't like Goodreads when it comes to reviews, because Goodreads lets you review books that don't have any, like nobody can read them, but you can somehow give it 1 star. Goodreads has problems, so it's very hard for me to take Goodreads reviews and just be like, yay. Because sometimes I'm like, this book just got announced yesterday. Why did it have 1 star?
Yeah, Goodreads is there's so many things about Goodreads, but I was like, eventually I plan to just not look at it. I've looked at my Goodreads ads a couple times, and then I was like, that's enough of that. No more looking at those things. And then just leave it at that, because that's kind of just like the way you have to guard your mental health as an author. And it's sort of fun because, you think of like critiques and you're like, well, I don't only want to look at the good critiques, but it's like in the case of your book, it's like, yes, because
Yeah.
you've already written it. It's over.
That's the thing. You're like, it's already done, honey. It's out there. Like, I can't go back and change it now.
Yeah. And the way timing is, like, my sequel will be very likely fully edited and done by the time the first book comes out.
Ooh, that's great.
That is good news for me.
It's like, I'm sorry, I'm not changing anything.
You're like, it's too late now. It's done.
Yeah, like unless like people are bringing like legitimate like concerns about like problematic stuff like that, of course I'll pay attention to, and get her done, you know. But anything else, like if you're like, I don't like the romance, I'm like, okay, well,
Right. We have another audience question.
Okay.
What was your book contract experience like?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. So when you get, so you get an initial offer, and your initial offer has kind of like top line kind of terms. So it has like what territory your book is selling in, how much the advance is, like which rights they're taking and which rights they're not, things like if they're going to keep audio rights, if it's going to be like world English or like world, so they can publish anywhere in the world, etc. And so you kind of have that base up front, and then your agent takes that information and they share it with you, and you agree or you say whatever. If you don't agree, then your agent will go back and forth with you, but that's kind of the base offer. So there's no like huge surprises when you get to contract, because you pretty much know what's on the table up front, and then your agent will go back and forth with like the nitty gritty contract terms. So for me, it was like quite hands off. I basically just let my agent do all of that. And if there was something like she found concerning, she would bring it up with me, and I was allowed to ask questions. So really my only questions were, can we put cover like veto power in the contract? The answer was
yes.
That's a good one.
Sorry.
The answer was no.
The answer was no.
Then, yeah, just like because of it's like different for different authors and different deals. In my case, it was like, we can't really get that in the contract. Sometimes you can get cover consultation. Sometimes you can, cover consultation basically. I don't know of authors that I know that are like given like full veto power, like they can say I hate it, no, and the publisher has to do it. Usually what you can get is consultation, so they'll show you stuff, and they still showed me the book cover and asked me my opinion and stuff, and we were able to give comments. So that still happened even though it wasn't in the contract, just because sometimes things are very handshaky in publishing. Like another handshaky thing was, I said I wanted a Black illustrator, and my editor said, yeah, we'll do our best to get that for you, but it wasn't something that was in the contract, but it still happened. I still got a Black illustrator. So things like that. And then the only other thing I asked about the contract was, what is the case in which I would have to pay money back? Because I wanted to make sure it was something I could control. And the only case was like, you don't write the book or they don't like it.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, fair. Yeah.
I didn't think about that. I mean,
that's facts.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, because I was worried because I was going to use it to pay off my student loan. And I was like, I really need the student loan to be done. And I'm really scared that they're like, something's going to go wrong and I'll have to like suddenly give back money and I'll be like, I don't have it.
Oh, yeah. It reminds me of how like sometimes authors with the next book push the deadline back several times, because that has to be a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Did you experience any of that pressure writing the second book?
No, I'm one of those like gross people where I'm like early for all of my deadlines.
Oh, wow.
I got the first draft of the sequel done, and then I finally asked my editor what my deadline was, and she said March. And I did that first draft, and like I finished editing it in like October. So
Wow. So as far as authors are concerned, you're that one kid in class that messes it up
yeah,
for everyone else.
yeah, that's exactly
Oh my
it.
God.
So I was like, oh, okay. So I've had time to like send it. It's with CPs and betas and my agent right now, and I'm gonna work on it again in January. So like for me, all the deadlines are really good. And I also got like very reasonable deadlines. Like there weren't any I got where I was like afraid and like scared of like doing it in time. My editor is really good for that. So for me, I had no problem meeting deadlines. And even if a deadline was scary, I would probably push myself to do it because in a lot of cases, those deadlines, like your advance payments are contingent on you reaching those deadlines. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, like you're definitely gonna reach the deadline because you took the money.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that being somebody who gets things done well before the deadline, though, is a good skill to have in this type of career field because you're not going to be waiting till the last minute or requesting extensions and being stressed out.
Yeah, saves me a lot of stress. Like I thought my deadline was going to be in December when I reached out to my editor and she said March, and I was like, oh, okay, good stuff.
You're like, I'm ahead of the curve. I'm good.
Yeah, so if you can get ahead, that's really good.
Do you think that you're going to stick within the YA genre?
Yes, I tried to write in middle grade. I tried. It did not go super well. I just like couldn't get the voice right. And I went back and forth with my agent on edits, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it anymore. I just want to shelve it. She still has hope that I can do it, but I don't know. I just found it hard to get into the middle grade voice. I think I would like to do adult one day, but I also think like I don't quite have the voice for adult yet either. My voice just like when I write just comes out very YA, and it's hard for me to like swap around. So I don't think I'm ever going to be one of those authors that like is releasing multiple books in a year, because like to do that you got to write in different age categories. And I pretty much for like a while just see myself writing in YA. I think some books will be kind of on the edge. They'll be kind of crossover without actually going into adult.
Okay. And for those watching who are writing right now and looking for some inspiration, especially for those that don't have like the school background in writing or anything like that, have there been any books on writing that have really helped you?
Yes. So Save the Cat writes a novel, and Story Genius like changed the game for me. I feel like my writing has been significantly elevated, and it's also been faster, and I write cleaner drafts much earlier on because now my plotting and how I've set up my characters is so much more solid, so much more thought out. So when I write a first draft, it's like quite solid, and I don't have to do as many like, you know, like how I had to do with Blood Like Magic, where I had to like rewrite half of it twice. Like I'm not doing that anymore because those books really helped me. I think Save the Cat is really good for structure, but Story Genius really taught me how to think about my stories differently, how to really focus on character and character intention and goals. And because my strength in writing is really like voice and characterization, I think it just really let me have my strengths come out a lot more. But I think Story Genius is really good because I think thinking about your character and plotting your book from that generally creates like a really strong book. And so those two I absolutely recommend. And then a new one I've been using is On Writing and World Building by Timothy Hickson. And that's specifically for world building. So that's really good if you're like fantasy or sci-fi author.
Okay. I'm trying to remember the name of these so that I can put them in the chat for everybody. So the first one is Story Genius. I think that's the Lisa Crone book, right? if I'm not mistaken. Let me put that in the chat.
I had a question earlier, but I completely forgot my question because, you know, we do like to ask simple questions. Like, you know, sometimes Black Prose is a book club. So while we wait for Ochuole to do the chat thing, what are you currently reading?
Right now, I'm reading Horrid by, I think Pat Ellis is it? Oh no, Katrina Liselle. Sorry, I was thinking of the last book I read. I'm reading Horrid. I'm listening to Catherine House on audio at the same time because now I just like do those things simultaneously. I listen to one audio and I read one physically or ebook. And I just finished Grown and I loved it. It was so good. By Tiffany D. Jackson.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. I'm not ready for Grown right now. She really puts me in emotional places, and I just can't get there right
now. Yeah, very fair. Oh yeah, I love all of Tiffany D. Jackson's stuff. I still need to read Let Me Hear a Rhyme, but like I've read every other one, and it's been so good. Like
from what I heard, Let Me Hear a Rhyme is like her nicest one, because you know how every one of her books, like when everything hits the fan, you're kind of sitting there like, oh my god,
yeah.
Like, apparently, Let Me Hear a Rhyme, like it doesn't have that moment for you in that book, from what I heard. And I was like, I didn't know she could write like that.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm excited to read it.
So I've put the names of the books in the chat, at least from what I could find on Amazon. I'm pretty sure that I found the right ones. And does anyone have any questions or anything like that? I will say Blood Like Magic comes out, I want to say June. Am I wrong?
June 15th.
June 15th. So definitely go pre-order. I believe we have a link in the description. We are doing a giveaway because we want to kind of try to wrap things up for this evening. We are doing a giveaway, and here are the rules. In order to enter in to win one copy of Blood Like Magic, which Black Prose will be giving away to one of our lucky subscribers, you have to let me do this. You have to do number one, follow Liselle on all of her social media platforms of her choosing. So I think we'll do subscribe to her YouTube channel and follow her on, would you prefer Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Okay, so subscribe to her YouTube channel and follow her on Instagram. That's rule number one. Or rule number two would be to follow Black Prose on all of our social media. So you would need to be following us on Twitter, on Instagram, and you would need to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Yes, this channel right here. Rule number three is you need to comment down below. Give us your Twitter handle, your Instagram handle, and your YouTube name so that we can check to make sure that you have followed all the rules. And finally, like this video.
You have 1 week.
Yes, you have 1 week to enter, and we will be announcing the winner on Instagram and Twitter. So again, it's very important that you follow that rule so that you'll know if you've won. And yes, we will be checking to make sure that the winner has followed all the rules because that's the fair thing to do.
Yeah, so the official end date, let me just pull out the calendar to make sure. On the 22nd, it will end November 22nd. So tell your friends, tell your people. We're graciously blessing you with the book that we've already pre-ordered ourselves. So
right.
You're welcome.
Yes.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you for having me. Very happy to come on.
Yeah, this was great.
It has been a pleasure. I have been wanting to have you on here ever since I met you at BookNet Fest.
She has.
Got a book coming out. I was like, we have to have her on the book club. We have to have her.
We've been trying to come up with like themes that would be like perfect for you to come on, and it was like, no, we're gonna wait for her to finish her book and then we'll get her on. We're like, no, she's gonna be too busy by then.
That's what we all thought. We were like, oh my God, she's going to be so busy. She's going to be on promo tours. We're not going to be able to get her.
COVID.
Oh God, COVID. Yeah, COVID. I'm chilling. I'm at home.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been wonderful talking to you about all things writing. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this discussion, and good luck to everybody with your NaNoWriMo projects and your writing projects in general. And that is it for tonight's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you all on the internet later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.